I know. I just turned the timing up until, well,
Until
all right.
it ran.
Hey, if you're like me and you have a Dodge Caravan or a Shadow or Sundance or whatever, you have a Dodge product that has the Mitsubishi 3-liter in it. I haven't seen a video yet on how to set the timing. I just pulled my distributor out. I didn't check anything. I put it back in. I played the game where I had to like keep dropping it to try and get it in the right spot. Like I had me and my son out till like 11 o'clock at night the other night. Don't worry, he's not going to school right now. But I've been fighting this for days. And finally, I figured it out. And I thought I had done something drastically wrong, but it turns out I just nailed it out of nowhere. So first off, I put it in. I put the distributor in. I hooked my trusty Harbor Freight timing light up. And I couldn't see the timing marks. So I'll show you. There's this hole where I thought the marker was supposed to be. And I kept looking for the light there and I couldn't find it. And it turns out I was wrong. So the mark that you're looking for your timing marks is actually ahead of this hole. You got to clean your grease, grime, road dust, all of that stuff off of it to find the timing mark. It turns out I had actually dropped it, when I dropped it in and adjusted it to where it like sounded good, was actually about 16 degrees of timing. I think the factory specs either 10 or 12, but I like to party. So I'll show you where the timing marks are, and I can kind of give you like a little run through of like what it looks like when it sweeps, but I mean, it flashes so fast, my phone's not really going to pick it up. So I'll do the best I can to explain. All right, so to do your timing, first thing you got to do is you got to warm it up first, and then unhook the coolant temperature sensor. You want to loosen this bolt just a little bit so you can twist it. But I have it set, I'm done fighting it, so I'm not going to actually do it. Come down here, there's a hole you can shine your light through. And then there's marks next to it. If you clean that up, you'll see there's a 5 and a 10 mark, and then there's actually a dash for 15. I have mine set where the needle's basically bouncing between around the 15, possibly just ahead a little bit to 16 degrees. But it really makes this thing rip. So I tried filming this using my slow motion option on my iPhone, and it's not perfect, but it'll give you a little sense of what you're trying to look at. But the timing mark always dances around because these things don't idle 100%. At least mine doesn't. I put a larger throttle body on it so the idle hunts a little bit. So when I hook up my timing light, the spark detection wire, I always put on the coil light, because if I put it on just one of the spark plug wires, it kind of starts giving me a headache, like I'm almost having an epileptic seizure. With this being a little faster, it it doesn't hurt my head as much, but I can still see it. And you just have a timing light, you set it to 0 degrees advance if you have an adjustable one. But right here you can see that's where the mark ended up, right around 15 degrees. So once you have your timing set to where you want it to be, lock that bolt back down on the distributor, plug back in your coolant temperature sensor, and you'll be good to go. Now, obviously, depending on altitude, your climate, the general shape of the rest of your ignition system, your van or car might not be happy at 16 degrees. You might have to turn it back down to 12, have to turn it to 10. I don't know all the tuning dynamics, but I know that 16 degrees in Pennsylvania works year-round. I drove it home from Texas, and it was fine in Texas when it was hot. It was fine here when it got cold. Sometimes it takes a little longer to start. Most of the time, I click the key and it just boom. It's the fastest starting vehicle I own. Yeah, it's really honestly pretty easy once you get it figured out. Now, if you pull the distributor out and you're entirely lost, you can do basically what the old Chilton manuals would say. Pull out the number 1 spark plug, and then either put your thumb on it and then have somebody, turn the bolt on the crank pulley clockwise so that you can hear when the air comes out, psst, eventually the piston's going to reach top dead center. Then you can, put the rotor on and basically put the distributor in so that the rotor's facing the number 1, and it should get you pretty close, and then you can adjust it from there a little bit. Luckily, I just managed to just drop it in the right spot after a couple times of me fighting it, which I think that's what most people do anyway, because, you know, why would you do something right? But yeah, it's not very difficult. It's pretty easy to get it done. So I've since plugged the coolant temperature sensor back in, and I'm going to give it fired up real quick. It didn't start as fast that time. When it's dead cold, it fires up like instantly. But now it's just okay. I'll take my son with me and we'll do a little test drive so I can show you like how fast it is. So I'm going to be honest with you, my van isn't totally stock. I have a 5-speed swap, which I did with my friend Adam in Texas. He's an amazing turbo Dodge person. He knows these things in and out. It's cobbled a little bit. It's got a Daytona 3.5 final drive transmission in it. It's got Daytona cables, shifter cables that I either stole from the junkyard or I ordered offline. It's got neon booger bushings in it, and then the shifter base is I think it's an actual van shifter, because I liked how tall it was compared to how the seats are in my Roadrunner van. It's got a stock downpipe, but I deleted the cat because it was clogged, because like every other 3 liter, it burns oil really bad. And then it's got a weird exhaust setup that my buddy Greg made, Pipe Dreams Fabrication. So basically it's got a passive bypass valve ahead of a muffler, and the muffler is a 18-inch 18-inch Borla muffler. But honestly, it's just loud all the time. It's like ridiculously loud.
Brian, eat your heart out.
You know, I take it on road trips. It's miserable. All right, so please forgive me. I have not cleaned this van in months. It's just been a beater. I've been towing with it, using it as a work vehicle, but this is connected to nothing. And everything happens from the 5-speed shifter here. And it doesn't have the piece on the dash it's supposed to, so the clutch pedal sits up really high. It has this funny sound in the front suspension because the spring is like binding up a little bit. It's got car struts and cut minivan springs. So it sits fine, it rides great, it handles well, but sometimes the spring gets a little bound up, so I'm gonna have to switch the coilovers at some point because I just like how it looks right now. Can you see all of them?
Not well.
Can you see the speedometer at least?
Kinda.
Does that help? Well, Greg's idea for this exhaust was the passive bypass valve would be quiet at cruise and then loud at wide open throttle. So right now we're at about 50 miles an hour, 1800 RPMs, and it's like pretty quiet. But as soon as to go up a hill, it just gets loud. And then it's just, I mean, I can't explain how loud the thing is. It's loud. Mind you, this is a Grand Caravan. It's got dual heat systems because it was originally a cargo van, and then it was converted to a conversion van by a company called Roadrunner Vans in Galveston, Texas, I think, or, you know, like one of the coastal Texas towns. So I took it to the scales one day, and the van itself, I think, weighs 3,800 pounds. Which is like crazy considering how much a base Caravan weighs, is like 2,800. So, mind you, it's a 3,800 pound van. I weigh like 300 pounds, and it's only got a 3 liter. And this thing rips pretty good. It gets 22 to 23 miles per gallon with my like daily driving schedule. It usually gets 18 to 20 when I'm towing a car. And the best it ever got when it still had the automatic was 17. you know, like with my driving that I was doing in Texas with it. It's just much more efficient, much more fun to drive with the 5-speed. So once I get this loud exhaust situated and get alignment done and, you know, switch to the coilover springs up front, it's really going to be a nice fun car. So if you're still watching, here's a couple photos from when I left Texas in 2016. There's the transmission coming out. There's me mounting the 5-speed shifter. Here's what the pedals looked like when we finally got them cobbled into this thing. This is the bobble strut bracket on the K-frame, which is the rear transmission mount. Here's me stopping at a Buc-ee's, partially on my 1,600-mile ride home. It's kind of just a overview of the interior and the front. And then this is what the rear ended up looking like. It's the conversion van interior. I was actually able to sleep in this thing on my ride back. Thanks for watching.